great. There are not so many people, so I will not get widely embarrassed today. So, it's great. The clicker. I don't think this is something else.
I can walk to the front of the corner, okay?
Did you have a clicker for your presentation?
Yes. You did? Yeah, it's actually from Angel, because mine is not working. It's from Angel. But go ahead. Check it works, please.
Yeah, it's going to be easier because this is before here.
Yeah, I want to leave it to me as well.
Just make sure that Angel knows that.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Can I start? Everybody work?
Yeah, I'm good. Go
Very. I had this introduction in my pitch this morning. Actually, I was looking. I was on a presentation for one lady, and she was teaching us how to deliver a powerful speech, and maybe something to share with you to start with. Right? So she said, first thing you have to have a powerful posture. Yeah, you have to open your hands and such things. You know? The second thing, you have to engage your audience, which is big. Speakers so far. And the third thing, actually, you have to keep an eye contact on your audience so that you verify that they are really engaged. And the fourth thing, they said that she was a lady. You need to have a sexy underwear, right? And yeah, so don't expect powerful speech today, right? At least on the last one. So, sorry, the air is dry, so I'm taking some light to drink. All right, so principally the example for scaling agile, and descaling the organization, this second part is also very, very important. So thanks to our sponsors, I will keep a couple of seconds that you know them very well, and then we will move on. I'm coming from a company called Infobip, all right? So, and I intentionally didn't put my name in it, because the main person basically in this room today is yourself, actually. So if I can give you some of the experience, unfortunately the long one, yeah, to you, and then you can take it as your idea to your organization tomorrow, that would be a successful presentation for me. So it's not that I'm important, it's basically, it's yourself. First, how many of you, I know some, are working in product development? That's really that they're doing, product development. Do you know what is a product development? I guess it's not really outsourcing projects and you deliver some kind of things or piece of software or something. Just a product. So just a few of them, right? Very good. So you know well what is a product, right? Short story. It will be introduction to the next slide, so I have to. Do you know what is a contact center? You know, when you are a telecom operator, piss you off, nothing works, your teleconnection is bad, and you call them, and you tell them what is the problem. And then you tell them, okay, please, I don't know what to do that. Wait for 30 seconds, there's a nice music in the background and so on. Right. And so, what our company did actually, they said, all right, we have something which is a communication platform as a service, right? So we are communicating from our clients' enterprise solutions, that was all the, their clients. And through different channels, like Facebook, like Viber, like WhatsApp, like SMS, like voice, and other things. And we said, okay, what if we put these channels in the service of the contact center? So that agents, which could be, thousands of agents basically, or hundreds of agents in the company, they don't have to communicate over voice, but they can suddenly communicate over different channels. And they can handle many concurrent sessions with the clients. So for the company, it's a beautiful thing. That they can basically take more requests and your waiting time is much, much less basically. Right. So why I'm telling this one. So when you produce such software, right, there's something which is called transactional cost. Have you heard about the transactional cost in software development? Right. So that's basically everything that you do to put your code into production, right? So if you have, for example, phases like analysis, like development, and then later on you have kind of testing, especially if it's manual, then it's kind of costly, so you have to deploy it somewhere, and so on, right? Then you have to launch it. So those are the transactional costs. So imagine that you have, for example, extreme programming that Eric was mentioning you as well. I'm not sure if it's extreme. And then I was suggesting in one of the article, when you deliver a product and you test it, the ratio between development and testing should be 1 towards 1.4 in favor of quality assurance. Right. Later on it changed with automation, everything a little bit changed. But let's suppose that you have 2 to 1 in favor of the development. So you have 10 testers doing weekly 40 hours, like 8 hours per week, 320 multiplied by 30 hours per hour. Is that the price? 30 euros per hour. Right. That's a little bit less than 10,000 euros. So in months you have 5 weeks, that's 50,000 euros. And then you go to your CFO and say, we want to release our product as much often as possible. So we will release it every month, and we will launch it to our clients. And he said, and our transactional cost is, it's not that much, it's 50,000 euros. How many times you want to release it? I would say, don't ever release it. It's too costly. All right. So those are the transactional costs that we do. Sorry. Good pictures up on this side. Okay. So, and then let's switch the slide, because the next slide is also switching costs. And we have seen Gita and also Eric and Maida as well as saying about what if this allocate your budget and your priority changes over the year, right? And they will change, of course, we know. And then suddenly you need to switch. You need to switch the domain, you need to switch teams that are the most priorities. And sometimes those teams are working on different technologies. They have to learn the domain. Yeah. It's a switch. And this is called switching costs. Right? So we have 2 types of costs. Right. So those costs are actually investments that we do to launch the product. Right? And your investment could be investment, or it could be something which is visible as waste. Right? So I'm sure that you have been introduced to this, but I will go through it anyhow. So what usually from management side, and part of the manager, so I will not too much be rigorous. But what we do basically, we want always to reduce the lead time. Right? Right. And this is the typical value stream ratio. Someone mentioned this morning as well, value ratio. Value ratio is something that you really put an effort to bring a value for the customer, and all the rest that the company does to bring that product on market. And this is typical 97% of the non-value added activities. It looks very strict. Now let's go through it. And what we do, when someone tells you or a manager tells you, usually we attack this green area, right? And we achieve some of the improvements. And this red flag, we are not really looking at. This red flag in software development is this one. Actually, yeah. Anything that doesn't value for the customer. And that's this one. That's the delays, that's the bugs, that's the handoffs, feature that nobody uses, partially done features, task switching, and at the end, relearning. This is basically described in this book. If you haven't read it, it's a classic, evergreen, for the lean software development, published 2006 by Mary Poppy. She described it very well, but on top of it, there is this bonus waste, going unused potential, or unused talent in your organization. Right. Okay. Now we know what is waste in your organization. Right. So let's check a couple of curves here. Have you seen this one ever? The cone of uncertainty. Right? So, when you start your assignment, your project, your product, whatever, there's some phase approach. When you have a phase approach, then at the beginning you have a high uncertainty. So far, so good, right? Is it logical? I'm engaging with you guys, right? And I'm watching you. Right. So, and this is the phase where you do estimates, and then estimates basically those persons responsible to lead the project or to lead the project or responsible for bringing the product out in the market. They're doing different stuff like active risk management, historical data, statistics, and such things. Right. And then those are subject to two laws, actually. One is the law that is coming from the development. Who knows what is Hofstadter law? It's very easy. It says that it will always take longer, no matter if you take into account Hofstadter law. Right? Yeah. And then on the balance side, you have managers, which is called Parkinson's Squeeze, which approximately says like, if you have 7 days to finish your task, then you will finish properly. But if you take 2 days and give them 2 days, they will finish 2 days. Because there is a kind of mindset that developers are just playing games, surfing the internet, where you just need to squeeze them to produce results. Right? That's the Parkinson's squeeze. Yeah. Because managers are bearing in mind transactional cost. Right. As less project pays, cost of the days will be less, and our transactional costs are lower. Right. So how we can improve it? Oh, there's another error, sorry. If you've seen this one, probably you have, right? It's from 1965, right? So just remember it, we'll compare it. You've seen this one. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. So we have on this axis, we have wisdom and knowledge or experience, and we have a confidence, right? So we can see that not knowing nothing basically gives us a very high confidence. That's the most politicians are actually. Okay. So, and this is basically, we have a high confidence in the beginning. And when your confidence started to go down, like Maida was mentioning this morning, she was very low in confidence, seeing all these great speakers, and she started to really dig around and get to knowledge and basically go to this very quickly. But this is your program terminationable zone until you reach the valley of despair. And that's the final moment where your confidence is low and you just give up. Yeah. So if you compare those three and look at this phase when the project is starting actually. So what do we have? We have actually high uncertainty, right? They showed it on corner uncertainty. Then they have a team is warming up, so they are not performing yet, right? Then we have a little knowledge, right? But we have a great confidence. Right.
Stupidity.
Yes, it's a mountain of stupidity. Right. And that's the reason basically why we are committing very eagerly at the beginning of the project. Okay. Hold with me. I'm watching. Oh, so let's improve it a little bit. So what we can do with this kind of uncertainty, we can do something called iterative software development. Have you ever heard about it?
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah. Iterative software development is basically bringing you fast feedback, and brings your risks right down. It brings visibility that you can see basically what you're doing very easily. But there's a queuing structure that still remains. So we have, we learned last night we learned that we have Sarajevo Zenica highway, right? So imagine that you put a lot of tolls in the beginnings of these two cities. Then the highways will be pretty much unusable, right? Yeah, so those are the phases basically. And it said that queuing theory says that if you put more elements in the queue, your linear queue or waiting time in the queue goes super linear, right? So we want to avoid it. So what we do, we introduce something incremental. So basically, we are stacking up all these phases into the iterations and trying to release out the potential achievable product. And we know that it's not always possible to release. But eventually, after product owner decides at one moment, you have potential achievable product, you will eventually release it. And why would you do that? And here, taking basically from each phase, chop it out, you stack it up in iterations, and suddenly your uncertainty is not anymore uncertainty. Your cones of uncertainty is becoming cones of priority, or cones of value. Because the surface beneath these curves is actually starting from high priority of your features to low priority of features. So it's making it easier for the product owner to release actually as we go under these curves. Right? Are you agree with me? Or not? I'm ready to get challenged. Send it.
I agree.
Okay. All right. I can easily continue now. I was listening to Eric this morning and he said something, he said it very silently. And that was, the most important thing is, do you remember? Probably not, because there was a lot of important things there, but nevertheless. Okay, I will introduce you with Her Majesty. By the way, it's Evil Majesty, right? Yeah, this on-parade, just called local optimization. You know, thinking style, thinking actually like this. And you know about Deming, right? Heard about this guy. Guy went to Japan in the 50s, basically made a kind of revolution in the Japanese automobile industry and other industries as well. They have still in Japan they have a award given to the best performing companies according to his name. Right. And he said when we optimize subcomponents and systems, we don't optimize the overall system. Right? So this is LO, local optimization, just remember, right? If everyone does the best for example group, this is the best. That is thinking. So if you're still thinking on this thinking, right? It's not right thinking, yeah, because the system is getting worse or slower. Right? And why is that so? Because it is done with best intentions. It's just as the road to help. Right? And this is cognitive bias. You know what is cognitive bias, I guess, right? And this is cognitive bias, it's a strange name. It's called hyperbolic discounting, but it's actually present bias. When you value something that is present here and now more than something that will come in the future, which is normal as human. Because we as humans, we were used evolutionary to pick up things that we find and eat it. Don't store it for tomorrow because there is no fridge. Right? In prehistory, you kill the mountain and what you do. You eat as much as you can. Right? And this thing, and they said, this was a study basically, if I give you a diet for a week, and he said, you are allowed to take some sweets within this week, right? And there's a fruit and there's a chocolate. And 70% of us would take what? Fruit, right?
Chocolate.
Fruit. So they say. But if you come to Thursday, which is a particular day, and you're offered chocolate and fruits, what will we do?
I always take chocolate.
You check for chocolate. 70% will use chocolate. This is actually inconsistency in our thinking, because we want to do solutions very fast. And it is our evolutionary bias. So this guy here, which is called Daniel Kahneman, which is a Nobel Prize winner, he had like thick like this in his book, which is 500 pages something. You don't have to read like 500 pages, but you can read first 50 to understand the idea, because there's a lot of examples in there. Right? He was actually explaining how this organizational works in the real life. So highly recommend the book. Right. Oh, you got this in your bags. Well, this is a little bit commercial. This is Infobip. And this is not the point that I'm explaining to you. I just wanted to give you some insight. For example, we have 400 engineers. We have a huge infrastructure all over the world. Around, it's not 36 anymore, it's 38. I believe so. 38 data centers around the world. And it's the 500 virtual machines, basically, 100 virtual servers around the world. So we needed some people to take care of it, right? Okay. And those are the people. Those are the teams. All the dots up there. It's 90%, I would say, correct. So you guys don't catch me there. All right. But then just to give you an example of how we are organized and how we are thinking basically to change this. So there's a white teams and the color teams, right? Nothing to do with the racism or something like that. Right? So these are the more customer-facing things. These are the more infrastructure and enabler things. Right? So me as a manager in the future, I would like to turn this ratio in favor of the white teams. That's what we do. That's what our customer value. That's what they are paying for, right? But we need those guys, right? And we call them, which I will show in the slide, component teams, more or less. Are you familiar with the term component teams? I know that you are. Okay, I'll explain in the next slide. Right. But we are doing something that we are joining the team around certain suited components more widely so that they can learn much more than the single component of the team. Because single component it has a kind of style. Right. I'll skip it for a moment. So component teams, we come so far ready. You can read it, but you can let me to explain it. Right. I can see you had a good slide for the product backlog, stacking up the features. And these are the features actually. And they are customer-centric features. If they are not, then you're doing something wrong with your backlog. Right? And component team is a team working on a single component. And he has to help them the backlog because they're stacking lots of basically different stuff for different features. Right. So we are crunching these features and giving it to one component team. What does it cause basically? The high delivery of this team is actually a component. It's not a working system. Right. And in addition to that, it's a bonus. You have a lot of coordination among things. Right. So at the end, these ways of thinking and organizing encourages delivery of easier work for the teams. Because it's really easy work. But less value. Right. So we're thinking to change this into this. Now I can explain it for you, you can't read it. So each team takes a feature, we don't call it component teams, we call it feature teams. Now feature teams work on many components, not so many because it's impossible, right? A certain amount of components. And they deliver feature. How does it sound to you?
I would say mix, because I definitely see in bigger solutions the need to have more oriented feature teams for sure. But on the other hand, when you try, because it's not about just building features, I mean, the features they lay down on top of whatever architectural runway, whatever you want to call it, and then if you don't have architectural component team, then what you're building will be
Absolutely.
done.
Absolutely. So we have to be reasonable. Every theory and every model, as you said, yeah, we need to take into context. Right? There is 63 teams in this project. There are 63 teams. So we cannot say that they will all be stuck, they will all include all the elements of these very complex infrastructure, and they will in addition do the features. Probably this will not be possible, but we are getting closer to them. Right? Thank you for coming. All right, so this is a comparison, kind of. So I would encourage you to read these two books basically. Those are Craig Larman and Buzz Gordon. Those guys I was just recently on the Craig Larman course, and I don't plan to much, to be honest, but it's probably the best course I have been. So I would suggest that you read the books because they're basically explaining why local optimization doesn't work. And why to have feature teams, why to organize backlogs in this way. So it's a basically Scrum that is key. That's the most important. So, what I would like to now guide you through one exercise, right? And this exercise goes into this sentence: highest customer value each sprint, right? This is not a business objective, because your business objective might be, get so much revenue for that region, or I would like to position myself in this market as number one, or such things, which is a very valuable objective. But internally, when you turn it internally, okay, if I want to do that, I want to get a high customer value each sprint. That's my goal. You can do it like this. You can optimize for quality. You can optimize for speed or cost. Or you can set the objective to optimize to the highest management bonus. You can do this, right? But that's not what we can do here, right? So, if you want to high customer value sprint, each sprint, we need to have adaptiveness in teams, right? If you cannot keep down your switching costs, you can easily adapt to the changing requirements in the backlog. Yeah, it's very hard basically to have highest value every sprint. Following me? Right. So we will do a little bit of diagram here. So adaptiveness impacts very much highest customer value each sprint. Right. Further on, if we want our teams to be adaptive, they cannot just only work on a single component. They need to know more than a component. They need to know a system a bit more. right? So, also, in order to have adaptiveness to the teams, we need team cohesion. There's these curves down there, forming, norming, storming, so on. Yeah? And if those teams are working, I put another variable, Bill. If they are working on different technologies, that brings in the complexity in the system and complexity for them to learn, and our switching cost goes up. Right. So, number of technologies increases complexity. Yeah? And this complexity oppositely or negatively impacts adaptiveness of the team because of the switching. Right. Now, we get to this something which is called component teams. We showed on the previous slide, right? And component teams might look like that they contribute to the team cohesion. Right. But this is something that is called false dichotomy. Have you heard about that? False dichotomy is a situation when you think that you have only one core presented over levels. But you might have other stuff, how to basically get to the team cohesion, like team buildings, right, long-lasting team, and some other motivational factors that you can build in. Right? Okay. But we stuck on this component thing that we want to basically analyze. And we said, okay, if you have a component thing, those guys don't learn. They just take care about their components. They don't have a necessity for it. They stay with what they are. So it certainly negatively impacts it. Another thing that we have shown there is component teams are generating a number of product backlogs because every team has its own product backlog. And if you have a product backlog, don't get upset. We have basically oppositely, because it's very hard to make prioritization among product backlogs. It's very hard. If you have 40, like you have 40 product backlogs, then how would you basically make priority after? It's very difficult, right? And by definition, product backlogs basically means product owners. So we have a number of product owners that we are generating. And product owners basically brings down the complexity because we need to have a structure, like proxy, product owners, and other stuff, right? And this governance is a reinforcing loop, basically, here. And the governance, if you remember, or the non-valuable stuff, anything that does not bring value to the customer, is basically a waste. And waste is negatively impacting the customer value stream. So this is one kind of modeling and presenting your arguments, what you would do with the organization and your organizational design, when you're basically dealing with the number and scaling up. Does it make sense to you? Okay. Because this will make less sense to you, because you can enter many variables in your modeling and thinking design. And this is not the outcome. The thing is that you want to go through this process, not just see it, because that's mean anything to you. You need to go through it to make the right decision about your structure, about your organizational design. And this is structural agility, what Eric was mentioning, is layer number 3.
Number 2.
Or number 2, yeah? Number 2. All right. Now, so we have scaled number of product owners by actually putting everything in one bucket, right? That is called scaling. So in 2004, a lot of guys, because that was the time when Agile Manifesto came out, and everyone was doing some kind of researches, and they were also researching how the number of roles impacts basically the percentage of saturation. And percentage of saturation, they basically equalizes the performance of collective team knowledge. Why? Can you explain why? I'm engaging you now. In this article, they said, okay, if you have a small number of people, it's easier to get everyone informed and everyone knowledgeable and share this information. And by that, we expect that performance goes up. Right? It's very easy. So, having less roles, your performance going down. And this is something from, Sale or Zappos, Zappos, Amazon bought them later on. Yes, exactly, shoes. Every time the size of the city doubles, innovation productivity per persistence increased by 50%. But when companies get bigger, innovation productivity per employee generally goes down. So they started to optimize, and then Amazon bought them. Right. Okay. So, another part of this game, healthcare Gulf is probably the biggest organization in the US dealing with healthcare, which is a quite basically association of all the institutions. And 7 years ago, they had basically projects to do this, so they can have all information in one place, right? They can integrate all that, all the polyclinics, all the hospitals. So they took actually 55 contractors with as many as project managers. You know. Literally, it was thousands of developers. And they had generated cost of $250 million. Right? And they had $70 million in impact. And it was really a failure. And they were doing a kind of retrospective and asked this main guy who was responsible for it, had a deputy minister or something like that. Now, knowing this, if you did this again, what would you do different? And he said, I would take 10 guys and do goddamn thing all over again. And then they said, okay. And he took in Maryland, Ohio, 10, the best guy that they considered the best at that time. And they took a year and they made it for a $4 million cost. And this is $1 million maintenance, nevertheless. And it somehow worked out. And that is the example of how to scale this complexity. I don't know if it's true, it's in the article. But it is good to show it how we can basically put an imperative to scale unnecessary complexity. Right? Okay, and when speaking about the Dell, this is the size of the health governance site. So this is 100 million lines of code. This is the car software, which was 2013, right? Car software, 100 millions of code, right? And this is 5 lines here. And they didn't do all this, they just integrated all this together. Pretty much legacy. Okay. I'm not sure will I be able to show another case of this scaling, so we'll see very soon. But you cannot bring it up on the screen. How much time do we have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes exactly what we need.
Close the presentation, should be quick.
Should we do our time? Then I'm not running. Okay.
Then go to the Google page, the YouTube page, the browser.
This one. Is it enough? Yeah. Can I increase the volume? Somewhere over here. Let's keep it. I don't want to keep it here. But it's another case of scaling. So, next one. Okay. So, your pocket takeaways. I hope that you can remember what transactional and switching costs are. Can someone tell me? Transactional costs. Those are all the costs. Exactly. And the switching costs are
Change.
change. Now, someone are listening. Right. Very good. Okay. Then we have 7 wasted basically in software development, maybe 8. Right. Log optimization is always in a continuous ambush. And I would really invite you to learn how to see it. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it again. And that will benefit for you and for your organization. Customer-centered teams, or as much as closer to it, Chuck, thank you for the comment. It's beneficial for the complete flow and less, basically, average time that your feature is spending in your system, meaning less structural costs. And as we have seen with the healthcare government, and we have seen with this article with the number of roles, As you can see by this model that I've shown you, you can scale the complexity in the organization. So it means that you should fire all these people. You just need to find a proper phrase, because no phrase can be used in different ways, in different words. Right. So, any question?
I have one question, because I saw there the transactional costs, I saw the switching costs, but I didn't see the holding cost.
Right.
The holding cost is indeed, and I guess you have a paradigm between, I see usually between the holding cost and the transaction cost, and you're always trying to find, this is how I see it, a midterm, because the lower the transaction cost is, of course, the easier it is to go with smaller batches, which they flow more into.
Exactly.
On the other hand, when you have holding cost, meaning the more you hold the stuff on you, the later you will deliver, which means less value that you have. And I didn't see the part of the holding cost reflected in your equation. Is it on purpose, or do you only see as the transactional and switching costs as the key factors, or?
Holding to me is a kind of queuing, actually. You're stacking up the amount of work to do. Am I right to read your question?
Here's more about, so if I'm holding a feature, okay, if I'm not releasing it, maybe I'm losing market value, maybe I'm losing the opportunity, because the feature is a commodity. It gets, it becomes deprecated throughout time. So what I'm saying is that the balance between your holding cost, for me, the holding and the transactional cost is indeed the key when you're talking about scaling, especially with teams. So I see the impact, of course, of the holding cost, of the switching costs. So again, it's one of the biggest sources of waste is switch the context. We know that, and there's a cost for that. For me, it's clear. But the part of holding a feature, holding cost, I didn't see in the model that you explain how you do that, because what makes you decide how long are you going to keep a feature or keep something from being released? Because the more I spend on transaction costs, maybe I need to save on the holding costs. If I'm giving things quickly, okay, I have a specific transaction cost, but of course, the more I do this, the transaction, the more money I spend. But of course, which means that if I'm saving too much, if I'm spending too much money transaction, maybe I want to reduce the amount of transactions, which means that I'm going to hold stuff for more time. But maybe I have more holding costs in doing this.
Sure.
For me, it's about finding this balance.
Absolutely. So, if you remember these 7 wastes, one of the wastes was that feature that nobody uses. Feature that nobody uses is, to me, you can release them. Nobody really used it. You didn't put it in production, actually, or give it to the customer, right? So it's a waste. It's a cost, but it's a pure waste, right? So, why would you do such a feature if you don't want to release this fast? Right. So those are the variables that you can model even in this cause and effect diagram yourself, right? So if you don't want to release something very quickly and you know that it will be folded for some time, it's not going to get priority in that probably. Right. No. But thanks for the question. It's a very good day. Did you have many questions, or I explained it so clearly that you don't have to ask anything. Right. That's very good. We have 1 more minute for more questions. So